Description: what do you do when you wake up and find yourself inside the very game that you love? What do you do when you realize that you have not only become an NPC, you have even been thrown back in time to before the game even launched? What will happen when our protagonist's two realities coincide? Han Xiao was a professional power leveler before his transmigration, using his past lives. The subject lasted for 2 minutes and 45 seconds after the administration of Valkyrie. Time of death: for 22 AM. I should be the only one at home. Who's talking? Han Xiao opened his eyes, only to be blinded by light. The familiar hatch of his VR capsule was no longer there. Instead, he was facing a white ceiling. The walls that surrounded him were also white and reminiscent of cold, hard metal. They felt like something straight out of science fiction. The room resembled an intensive care unit, and Han Xiao lay atop a cold metal table, bare-chested and wired to all sorts of machines. His back was freezing. Han Xiao noticed that there was a group of people in white coats surrounding him, and they were looking at him as though they had just seen a ghost. I thought I just accepted a leveling request. Where am I? Suddenly, Han Xiao felt as though a large amount of data was being transmitted into his mind, causing his head to throb painfully. The last thing he could remember was accepting a leveling assignment. He was in the midst of creating a new character in a galaxy when he seemingly started to smell burnt eggs. Quickly, let Ms. Hyler know. The test subject has come back to life. Call the guards. As the researchers started a commotion, Han Xiao realized that he could understand them, even though they were speaking in a language he had never heard before. Test subject, back to life, and the guards, these terms unnerved him. Soon, he could hear the sound of rushing footsteps coming from outside. Should I make a run for it or just lie still? Han Xiao decided on the former in a split second. He was not the kind of person to just lie around waiting. He abruptly sprang up, ripping the wires off him, and made a clumsy beeline for the door. The researchers did not attempt to stop him. Instead, they backed off hastily to avoid being knocked into. Crash! He pushed his way out into a white corridor, only to be greeted by a dozen or so guards suited in black and armed with electric batons advancing upon him from both sides. Han Xiao gasped at the sight of the crest on their uniforms. It depicted half a plant. The germinal organization from planet Aquamarine back in version 1. Weren't they eliminated? Suddenly, a guard swung his electric baton at Han Xiao, and Han Xiao unconsciously raised a hand to block it. The ensuing current caused his whole body to spasm in pain. It felt like his bones were about to split and his entire body turned numb. Is the pain calibration at 100%? Galaxy's pain calibration was restricted to a maximum of 40% because any higher setting could potentially cause nerve damage to players. The VR capsule was also supposed to monitor the player's vitals to prevent this, but it was currently malfunctioning. It's only been 7 years and the capsule is having problems, damn it. The repairman I paid $300 to a few days ago told me that it would still be good for another 6 months. I want a refund. The guards yanked him up and took him to a small room where they locked him up alone in pitch black darkness. Han Xiao grimaced in pain as he massaged his wrist. His head continued to throb as more information poured in. It took Han Xiao a moment to reconcile the facts and make sense of what had happened to him. I've transmigrated into Galaxy. His eyes widened with amazement. Galaxy was a fully immersive virtual reality game that ran servers worldwide and boasted a peak concurrent player count of almost 60 million. The game was set in a vast universe with a world map and landscapes that were procedurally generated using the latest generation of quantum computers. The scale of its world was massive, and it was said to be able to run smoothly even with 1 billion concurrent players. There existed many organizations and companies that specialized in farming gold and running dungeons, and the best pieces of gear could even go for ridiculous prices of up to $1 million. Being an extremely popular game, good balance was of the utmost importance. While big spenders did have certain advantages, it was not so unfair to the extent that it displeased the casual players. Maintaining competitiveness and improving skills were key factors towards game balance, and Galaxy did a good job in these areas, facilitating its strong allure as an esport. Although Han Xiao did indeed make a living out of playing the game, the term professional gamer didn't fit him well. He was, instead, one of the despised power levelers and preferred to work solo. Han Xiao had been playing the game since its very inception, and through the numerous patches, he had made a name for himself. In the last annual top 100 rankings, he placed 47th. He definitely had what it took to try his hand at going pro, but what he enjoyed most about the game was the leveling experience. The germinal organization originates from one of the beginner planets. New characters were sent to back in version 1 of Galaxy. Planet Aquamarine, mumbled Han Xiao. Before transmigrating, Galaxy had already been operating for over a decade. Version 1.0 was ancient history. Have I time traveled too? Han Xiao's expression darkened. Does that mean I won't be getting my $300 back? Am I stupid? That's the least of my concerns. Han Xiao slapped himself. His memories were still jumbled up, and he could not recall anything about his original life, not even his name. All that he could recall were details regarding this world, such as its present era. He was currently in the year 687 of the Galaxy calendar, a year behind the updated timeline. In version 1, there were 3 universal powers that were upholding a peace that had lasted for 10,000 years since the era of exploration. They were the Commonwealth of Light, the Crimson Dynasty, and the Arcane Church. The Silver Revolutionary Army had yet to be formed. The one responsible for the supernatural disaster was still fighting for dear life on some desolate planet. The world of light had not come into existence. The civilization of the World Tree had not yet invaded from the beyond, and the shattered belt that contained planet Aquamarine was still budding inconspicuously along the fringes of the explored universe. In order to ensure that the game remained attractive, Galaxy borrowed and implemented ideas from its predecessors, such as WoW, where each version update revolved around a disaster or some major event. While Han Xiao enjoyed the game, now that he had transmigrated over. Get me out. While the Germinal organization was small fry compared to the interstellar powers introduced in later updates, to the currently powerless Han Xiao, it was an entirely different story. Planet Aquamarine was modeled after Earth, and the Germinal organization's aim is to overthrow this planet's government. If I'm not wrong, Valkyrie test subjects are brainwashed to serve as cannon fodder. The body he currently possessed had experienced a memory wipe. Apart from some general knowledge, all that remained were fragmented memories of captivity and experimentation. It seemed to be roughly 20 years old and bore a slight semblance to his original self. However, its state of health was as yet uncertain. He had heard the researchers mention that he had been injected with Valkyrie, one of the Germinal's gene-altering drugs that was used to strengthen the brain. Valkyrie had a survival rate of only 30%, but this body had reacted positively to it. Suddenly, a glowing line of blue text blue appeared before his eyes. You have been injected with Valkyrie. +1 endurance. You have learnt a new ability, concentration. You have learnt a new ability, low-level willpower. Virtual interface. Han Xiao jumped for joy. Name, Han Xiao. Race, human, carbon-based yellow. Model, NPC. Countdown to version 1.0 launch. 358 days 11 hours 03 minutes. Level 1. Experience 0. Main class, NA. Subclass, Civilian LV, 1050. Attributes, Strength 2, Dexterity 2, Endurance 3, Intelligence 3, Mystery 1, Charm 2, Luck 1. Unassigned stats, 0. Energy, 0. LV, 0. Energy rank, 1-2. Grade, F Mortal. Piece of trash with a combat strength of 5. Pick any NPC out from the streets and he will wipe the floor with you 100 times. 100 times. Health points, 23/30ths injured. Stamina, 36/36. Abilities, Concentration, +10% to learning and crafting speeds. Low-level willpower, +3 resistance. Skills, none. Talent points, 0. Class talents, none. Influence, 0. Reputation, 0. Equipment, none. Thank God I still have the interface. Han Xiao was ecstatic but quickly discovered that there were several irregularities. NPC, not a player countdown timer. Han Xiao furrowed his brows as he organized his thoughts. First of all, although he had no idea how the interface had transmigrated together with him, he had to treat this world as his new reality, meaning that if he died, he could not bank on being able to respawn like in a game. Secondly, he could still access the system's interface despite being classified as an NPC. This suggested that he could still level up like a player, which was good news. Thirdly, if the countdown timer confirmed his suspicions that he had indeed traveled back in time to before the game's launch, did it mean that real players would soon appear? Lastly, and most important of all, he was currently in grave danger. Han Xiao felt indignant. Didn't people who transmigrated normally receive perks such as resources, companions, or at least an ex-girlfriend at the very least? He should have started out in a safe location. The war hadn't even begun, and he was already a lone hero deep behind enemy lines. A single slip could prove fatal. He could very well end up in the Hall of Heroes if such a place existed. Han Xiao only had one life here. If he died, then that would be the end of it. It would be a pity. Yes, Han Xiao only felt that it would be a pity. I want to survive would be a more normal line of thought. As for variations such as, my fate is not for the heavens to decide. If the heavens want to erase me, then I will erase the heavens. Or, swallow an Aurus core to transcend life and death. Such ramblings were exclusive to people with second-grade syndrome. What the hell? Why am I the only one SAO'd? Han Xiao lamented. And while his senses confirmed that this was indeed reality, he started to wonder, what exactly am I now? Am I an actual life form? Or am I just a bunch of data? Did my soul transmigrate? Or is it something else entirely? He sighed. I guess I'll just have to make the best out of the situation and take it one step at a time. The essential thing was to survive. With a year to go before launch, he had enough time to get prepared. This was the sole glimmer of promise that he could cling on to. Clank! Suddenly, the door opened, and several people walked in. As he could only make out their silhouettes due to the light streaming in from outside, Han Xiao could not see their faces clearly. However, he could make out from their outlines that one of them was a woman with a fiery figure. The subject's condition. Said woman spoke to her subordinate in a voice that was smooth, yet intertwined with an ever-so-faint rasp, reminiscent of a cup of rich coffee. It appears that the test subject has calmed down. The experiment leader, Lin Weizian, answered the woman as he stared at Han Xiao passionately, as though he were looking at a prized possession. Who are you people? Han Xiao asked hoarsely. Amnesia. The woman's eye twitched. Valkyrie stimulates the brain, so memory loss is not unexpected, replied Lin Weixian, squinting. When Han Xiao's eyes had finally adjusted to the light, he was stunned by the sight of the woman. Boasting a head full of luscious, burgundy hair that concealed part of her face, the woman wore a tight-fitting, jet-black bodysuit from which her curvaceous figure threatened to burst out at any time. Her features were telling of her Western descent, but they were also composed of a certain softness that was characteristic of Eastern women. Perhaps it was her mixed heritage that blessed her with such beauty and charm. In a different world, she could have been easily mistaken for a beautiful snake demoness. If Dag had possessed such beauty, then King Ju did not die in vain. One thought Han Xiao. I am Hyler, the commander here, said the red-haired woman as she looked at Han Xiao. She waved a hand and ordered, conduct a blood test. I want to see the report ASAP. Two stone-faced guards walked forward to yank him away. Their massive bodies and the fact that they were carrying guns dispelled any notion that Han Xiao had of resisting. He recognized their Crimson Snake, Hyler, and that this was one of the playable scenarios on planet Aquamarine Valkyrie Experiment Lab, located in a key base of Germinal. During version 1, Hyler was a boss who had caused beginners on Aquamarine much grief. She had many nicknames, one of which was their Goddess of Death. She would eventually attain Celestial class strength and rise to prominence in the Cotton Cluster. Han Xiao laughed bitterly on the inside. The situation was bleak. Dag was the favorite consort of King Ju of Shang, the last king of the Shang dynasty in ancient China. She is considered as a classic example of how a beauty can cause the downfall of a dynasty in Chinese culture. The blood test results were compiled quickly. Hyler went over the data she had received from Lin Weixian with knitted brows. No abnormalities detected. Valkyrie mainly affects the brain. We will need to open the head up for assessment. Open the head up, snapped Han Xiao inwardly. Open the head up. Hyler waved a hand in dismissal of the idea. He is the only subject to have ever survived the experiment. We'll leave that option out for now. Han Xiao's eyes lit up as he realized that his current status was somewhat advantageous for him. Lin Weixian was not pleased by Hyler's decision, but he made no fuss about it. In that case, we'll observe him for the time being to see if anything has changed. Proceed with the brainwashing, ordered Hyler suddenly. Brainwashing. Han Xiao's heart sank. Brainwashing was a common method of subordination, and while in the game, a brainwashed character would simply become an ally of the faction, it was completely different now. Losing his sense of self was the worst-case scenario. No way. The good news was that memory-altering technology available on the planet was still underdeveloped, so the organization's methods were very primitive. They made use of sensory stimuli to recalibrate the subject. A character with at least 10 points in intelligence would be immune to the effects of the brainwash. Valkyrie had given Han Xiao a +1 boost to the growth potential of his endurance. Growth potential was an innate stat that affected the growth rate of the affected stat. Different races had differing starting potentials in each stat, and in the entire world of Galaxy, humans generally had a mediocre growth rate. They did, however, boast the highest intelligence potential. As they also possessed the lowest health, this single point in endurance growth potential was nice to have. Concentration gave him a 10% increase in mastery and crafting speeds, also increasing their success rates. Low-level willpower gave him 3 points of willpower, which substituted for 3 points of intelligence, so he still lacked 3 more intelligence to survive the brainwash. Leveling the civilian class will boost a random stat by 1 and also give me 1 unassigned stat point, but the chance for intelligence to be boosted is extremely low. Han Xiao knew that he could not rely on luck. In fact, he had always suspected that he was cursed. If a god or goddess did smile upon him, it would have to be the goddess of disaster. Rather than rely on luck, finding some way to learn a new class was a more reliable idea. Although Han Xiao was incapable of moving freely, there had to be a way. After all, it was a scenario, wasn't it? Suddenly, he thought of something. If I'm an NPC, I should be protected by the system, right? Take him, ordered Hyler. Han Xiao was yanked away once again and brought to another room. Han Xiao noticed that there was a bookshelf in this room. Tom's Introduction to Machinery, a theory on human genes and lizard genes. Rand's hypothesis. They were all reference books. Hold on, there's a class book there, rejoiced Han Xiao. Han Xiao disregarded the 2 guards behind him as he stood up to walk towards the shelf. His actions startled everyone, and instantly, the 2 guards were pointing guns at him. However, Han Xiao steeled his nerves and continued to approach the bookshelf. You'd better not fire, he prayed. I'm a valuable test subject. Hold your fire. Let's see what he's up to, shouted Lin Weixian all of a sudden. The 2 guards hesitantly lowered their guns. Han Xiao heaved a sigh of relief. He had been banking everything on his status as the first successful subject. Tom's Introduction to Machinery. This was the book that had caught Han Xiao's eye. He picked it out from the shelf and started flipping through. Although the long paragraphs of texts and complex diagrams were hard for Han Xiao to comprehend, he patiently read on. After 20 seconds or so, the interface lit up. You have completed 1 session of self-learning in basic machinery knowledge. Basic assembly has progressed by 2% based on your intelligence, plus 0.2% from concentration. As I expected, Han Xiao rejoiced. Although he wasn't able to understand the book's contents on his own, the system's automated mastery system had allowed him to directly absorb the knowledge. Lin Weixian's curiosity was piqued. The test subject seemed to be learning. He allowed Han Xiao to continue in order to observe him more. The entire room was now silent except for the rustling of paper. Basic assembly. Progress rate 15% plus 1.5%, 29% plus 2.9%, 48% plus 4.8%. Han Xiao's reading speed increased with time. However, the pressure mounted on. Every second that passed could be his last. When Hyler arrived at the room, the sight of Han Xiao reading caused her to frown. What's going on? Lin Weixian began to explain what had happened. You're saying that his learning ability has been strengthened. That is my initial conclusion. If you allow me to open his head up to perform a thorough assessment, I will be able to come up with a more complete answer. Han Xiao flinched. How much does this bastard love brains? Hyler thought to herself, if his brain has been enhanced, he could prove to be more valuable than we initially thought. Is the brainwashing apparatus ready? She asked. Preparations are complete. Damn it, I have to be faster, thought Han Xiao. Suddenly, a notification accompanied with a sound popped up on the interface. Basic assembly. Progress rate 90% plus 10%. You have learned basic knowledge of machinery, unlocking the mechanic talent tree. You have unlocked a new profession. Mechanic novice. SDA plus 10, in plus 1, N plus 1. You have gained 2 stat points. You have gained 1 talent point. You have acquired new skills. Mechanic novice. Basic maintenance. Basic enhancement. As warmth surged through Han Xiao's body, he realized to his surprise that he could actually comprehend the contents of the book now. I can gain actual knowledge from the game. Are you kidding me? Galaxy has been in service for over a decade. How come the Federation of Earth hasn't conquered the Milky Way yet? Strange. Their character information interface had updated as well. Name, Han Xiao. Race, human, carbon-based yellow. Model, NPC. Countdown to version 1.0 launch, 358 days 10 hours 11 minutes. Level 2. Experience 0. Main class, Engineer Novice, LV 10200. Subclass, Civilian, LV 1050. Health 43 50ths. Injured. Stamina 80 80ths. Attributes 3 SDR, 3 DEX, 5 END, 4 INT, 1 MYS, 2 CHA, 1 LUK. Unassigned stats 2. Energy 10 tenths LV 1. LV 110. SDR plus 1. DEX plus 1. END plus 1. Max stamina plus 20. Energy rank 3-4. Grade F mortal. You still lack the combat strength to take on 5 lowly thugs. Abilities. Concentration plus 10% to mastery and crafting speeds. Lesser willpower plus 3 to focus. Skills. Mechanic novice. LV10 1000 increases mastery of engineering. Basic maintenance. LV10 400 able to perform simple maintenance. Basic enhancing. LV10 600 able to enhance machinery. Potential 1. Class talents. Arms. Basic assembly. LV119 talents not learned. Energy 20 talents not learned. Control 20 talents not learned. Influence 0. Legend 0. Equipment none. Regarding stats, strength improved melee damage and was also a requirement for some heavy equipment. Dexterity improved movement speed, attack speed, and evasion. It also gave a bonus to ranged attacks. Endurance increased health and energy. 1 endurance gave 10 HP and 10 energy. Endurance also affected some abilities and skills and increased HP and energy recovery rates. All actions depleted energy, be it attacking, blocking, walking, running, swimming, crafting, etc. Endurance also affected physical defense. There were many formulas contributing to the calculation of defense. For example, even if two characters' defense stats were equal, one of them might not be wearing metal armor, so they would take more damage from a bullet than the other character. Other factors that affected damage taken included energy, range, bullet type, racial characteristics, and equipment material. All of these factors were taken into consideration when calculated by the quantum computer that the servers were run on. It was impossible for players to accurately optimize defense, but this wasn't that big of a deal, as having more defense could only be a good thing. Intelligence affected growth rates and willpower. A character with higher intelligence could master their skills faster. It also increased mastery and crafting speeds, and it could affect the quality of any machinery crafted by a mechanic, making it the most important stat for the class. Mystery affected a character's talent for supernatural powers, and it affected psychic powers and magic abilities, like how strength or dexterity affected physical abilities. Charm was useful when improving relationships with different NPCs and factions. It even enabled characters to enjoy discounts with certain sellers. Luck affected judgment and item drop rates. These were the 7 main attributes that stat points could be added to. Then, there was also energy, a core component of the game that functions as mana for superpowers. It could only be increased through leveling or by acquiring certain skills, and it was described as a manifestation of the dormant power that lies in living cells. Energy was a requirement to unlocking superpowers, as well as latent awakening. A character would also receive bonus stats based on their energy level. LV1 energy was reached at 10 points, LV2 at 50 points, and LV3 at 100 points. Each energy level would give random random stats according to the character's class, and a character with a higher level class would benefit more from this. This bonus worked retroactively. Energy was also the mana for superpowers, and the additional stats received from energy were lost when the amount of energy remaining dropped below its tier. For example, LV1 stat bonuses would be lost when energy dropped below 10 points. The character would become fatigued after exhausting power, and this affected their combat ability. This mechanic made micromanagement in combat important. Energy recovered automatically but at a slow rate. However, stamina could be used to recover energy faster. Also, when using superpowers without sufficient energy, stamina could be used as a substitute, and when there was both insufficient energy and stamina, health could be used. Many players ended up dying carelessly by sucking themselves dry this way. A character's grade reflected their combat strength. Characters were ranked according to their grade. The standard unit of measurement for energy was the owner. Superhumans were graded A, B, C, D, or E, based on their owner levels. An E-grade superhuman, such as the present-day Hyler, possessed 100 Uner. A celestial class superhuman would fall under grade A. Grade A superhumans were capable of planetary scale destruction. Of course, grade A wasn't the limit. Han Xiao knew this, having transcended grade A himself. However, then was then and now is now. Having gained 2 unassigned stat points from unlocking the mechanic class, Han Xiao still needed 1 more intelligence in order to endure the brainwash. Apart from leveling up, there did not seem to be a way for him to obtain it. How was he supposed to gain experience? He obviously couldn't hunt monsters now or complete quests. Damn it, is there no way? Suddenly, an idea occurred to Han Xiao. He abruptly tossed the book to a side and proceeded to stare at the gun on the guard's waist with a blank expression. Hyler frowned but did not act. Everyone looked on to see what Han Xiao was up to. Han Xiao walked rigidly towards the guard. As if to make his intentions extremely clear, he reached out exaggeratedly for the gun. The guard instinctively drew his gun, and although Han Xiao did not seem to have any intention of snatching it, he tightened his grip. As Han Xiao was moving extremely slowly, the guard did not see a need to fire. Unload the gun and let him have it, ordered Hyler. She was keen to know Han Xiao's motives. The guard obliged and proceeded to do so. Upon receiving the gun, some information popped up on Han Xiao's interface. 73 Wasp small caliber handgun. Grade, gray. Damage, 28-35. Fire rate, 1.1 s. Power output, 13. Key components, spring, slide, firing pin, magazine missing. Basic assembly automatically gave Han Xiao knowledge about many types of machines, and the blueprints for a 73 Wasp appeared in his mind. Instantly, Han Xiao understood how to assemble it. While in the game he simply needed to load the gun. After learning it, he now had to perform some more technical procedures. Everything was truly far more immersive than it had been in the game, confirming his suspicion that he had transmigrated to an actual reality. Han Xiao began to strip the handgun and reassemble it. The skill icon for basic assembly lit up. After 40 seconds, he finished the task. To a specialist, 40 seconds was nothing. However, Han Xiao was a complete newbie. He had only spent 10 minutes on a book. Everyone was shocked. Is this the effect of Valkyrie? Lin Weixian started speaking excitedly. Such learning prowess. If I can analyze his brain, perhaps I can recreate. Go to hell. How much, exactly, are you obsessed with brains? Han Xiao proceeded to repeat reassembling the handgun. You have succeeded at an assembly basic. 69% perfection rate. 28 EXP gained. You have succeeded at an assembly basic. 73% perfection rate. 32 EXP gained. There were many ways to gain experience in Galaxy. Apart from hunting monsters and completing quests, skills and crafting were 2 key sources of experience for mechanics. As Han Xiao repeated the task again and again, he gradually became faster and faster. He was soon able to complete the task in a mere 20 seconds. Proceed with brainwashing now, ordered Hyler suddenly. Fortunately for Han Xiao, it had been enough. He had accumulated a total of 200 experience points. Use all experience to level up class. Mechanic. Ding. Mechanic novice has leveled up. LV 1, LV 2. Energy plus 10. Intelligence plus 1. Endurance plus 1. You have gained 2 stat points. You have gained 1 talent point. Han Xiao breathed a sigh of relief. That was close. 3 Life is all about acting. Han Xiao was strapped to a metal seat with his eyes forcefully pried open by extensions. Before him was a black screen with speakers on either side. He was unable to move at all. How long is the procedure? 12 hours. Keep watch here, ordered Hyler before she left with some grunts. Lin Weixian activated the procedure and the screen lit up. It began to display all kinds of geometric shapes and patterns that morphed continuously. The vivid, rapidly changing colors and harshly alternating music caused Han Xiao much discomfort. While he wanted to close his eyes badly, he was unable to, and soon, his eyeballs turned bloodshot and swollen. This is so uncomfortable. It was a primitive method of brainwashing. The theory behind it was to overwhelm and distort the subject's thoughts to make it easier to feed messages into their mind. It did, however, have the advantage of not causing permanent damage to the brain, which both Han Xiao and Lin Weixian could appreciate. The depraved expression on Lin Weixian's face enraged Han Xiao. He felt like he was a pig at the slaughterhouse. Han Xiao added 2 of his for unassigned points into intelligence. You are being brainwashed. Low level. Your INT 7. Your resistance 3. Brainwash failed. Han Xiao's discomfort immediately eased. At the end of the 12 hours, Han Xiao's entire body was aching and his eyes were completely dried out. Hyler returned on schedule. The boss had assigned her the task of brainwashing Han Xiao, so she had to ensure that everything went smoothly. She undid Han Xiao's shackles, revealing bruises on his limbs. Although Han Xiao was still hurting, he continued to look at the screen blankly in order to act the part. Hyler suddenly bent forward, and her face came to within 2 inches of his. Her moist breath fell upon his lips, but Han Xiao was far too concerned with his predicament to be distracted. Perfume filled up his nostrils, tickling him, and it took great effort on his part to resist the urge to sneeze. Who are you? Asked Hyler in a soft, hypnotic voice. Han Xiao decided to twitch his face instead of replying. Although Han Xiao had never been a good actor, it wasn't too hard to act like an idiot. Suddenly, Hyler began to whisper into his ear. As her hair tickled Han Xiao's throat, 2 snowy mountains came into his view through the window of her collar. He steeled his heart with a prayer. Between the mountains is a valley, empty like the void. Atop the seas stands an island, straight as a tree. I, who have seen over 100 gourds, will not fall for your bait. From today onward, your name is Zero. The Germinal organization is your home, your country, and your everything. You will forever be loyal to the organization and will forever strive to help the organization achieve its goals. You will neither hide anything from nor betray the organization. You will carry out your orders faithfully, and you will sacrifice yourself for the greater good when the time comes. Lin Weixian broke out in manic laughter. Your life belongs to the organization. You will do whatever you are ordered to do, he added. Who are you? Re-questioned Hyler. This time, Han Xiao knew that he had to reply. However, he did not reply immediately. Hyler shot a frown towards Lin Weixian. I followed the procedure. It's not my fault. Suddenly, Han Xiao began to speak. Zero. Lin Weixian's eyes lit up. Valkyrie strengthened Zero's learning ability. However, as a side effect, it impaired his speech. Hyler thought back to Zero's earlier behavior. He had indeed responded slowly to his surroundings. Seems like the experiment was not perfect after all. You're wrong. This is perfection. He does not need emotions. Take him to recover. I will report to the boss. I'm safe now. Han Xiao could finally relax. He had come up with the idea of acting slow to lower their guard during the procedure. Although I didn't transmigrate to an ideal location, at least it's not so bad time-wise. The Valkyrie experiment was the prototype of a later super soldier project that implemented microchips into test subjects in order to ensure loyalty. Transmigrating to then would have been way worse. They would have been able to blow him up anytime. At least Lady Luck is smiling upon me in one regard. Hyler made a call through an encrypted line. Boss, the situation has stabilized. Is the brainwashing complete? The man's voice was hoarse. I oversaw the procedure. There was no issue. What arrangements do you have for Zero? The Valkyrie experiment's aim is to train soldiers, so train him. How is my sister doing? Don't forget the deal. The man warned. I gave you permission to visit her once every 2 months. Don't cross the line. Hyler clenched her fists. The interior of the underground Valkyrie lab was almost entirely white. Guards constantly patrolled the grounds. After a night's rest, Han Xiao was brought to an isolated training field where Hyler awaited. While he was not too sure of what arrangements the organization had for him, he was certain that they would value his learning ability, meaning he would definitely get the chance to level up his mechanic abilities. It was virtually impossible to escape from such a tightly guarded fortress, so Han Xiao had steeled himself for the long haul. Zero, you will undergo daily combat and shooting practice from today onward. Hyler tossed a suit to him. Put it on. Han Xiao quickly wore it. As soon as he put the suit on, Hyler attacked, launching a vicious kick at chest level. Bang! Too fast. Han Xiao was unable to react, and the kick cracked his ribs through armor. He staggered back over a dozen paces and clutched onto his chest, coughing, as expected of a superhuman. Although she was obviously not going all out, she was still several times faster than an ordinary person. 30 seconds of rest, she stated blandly. Combat training was tough, but straightforward. No words were exchanged between the pair. They continued like this for 2 hours, by the end of which Han Xiao was completely exhausted and covered in bruises. He also now suspected that Hyler had masochistic tendencies. Are all Ice Queen types like this, he wondered. Hyler LV-30 has taught you basic combat. Progress rate, 5%. Hyler left wordlessly. A stout, burly man arrived to yank Han Xiao to the target practice field. I am your shooting trainer, and one of the vice managers of this base, Baltar, introduced the scary-looking man with a hideous knife scar across his forehead. He pushed a 73 Wasp into Han Xiao's hands and said, there's 10 bullets, hit the bullseye with all of them. Han Xiao frowned. How could a beginner who had never touched a gun in real life before hit the bullseye? Moreover, the target was a moving dummy 30 meters away. I'm no Olympic champion. Han Xiao shrugged his shoulders and raised the gun with his aching arms. Bang, bang, bang. After 10 shots, Han Xiao took a look at the scoreboard. As expected, he had failed. Suddenly, he felt a searing pain in his back. It was only with great restraint that he did not scream out. He turned around, only to see a frenzied Baltar licking blood off a black tactical knife. Continue. 1 miss, 1 cut. Let's see how much blood you will lose today. Han Xiao moved a hand across his back and it returned bloody. Bastard, he cursed inwardly. One of the glass panels in the room was a one-way mirror. Hyler and Lin Weixian were observing from the other side. Baltar is being too careless with my precious test subject. Might as well let me dissect him now, bemoaned Lin Weixian. Hyler cast a plain look at Lin Weixian and replied, the organization will not approve of your request. Lin Weixian laughed coldly in response. I will have my way sooner or later. I created him. He is mine. Hyler remained silent. Baltar LV-15 has taught you basic shooting. Progress rate 5%. Agent profession unlock rate 1%. Han Xiao was cut again and again. The cuts themselves might not have been deep, but there were so many of them that his clothes were completely drenched in blood. Baltar watched the weakened Han Xiao with a grin. He reveled in the smell of fresh blood. Why are you not screaming? He asked. A good toy screams. Damn bastard. Han Xiao took a deep breath to compose himself. While he really felt like punching Baltar, he knew that he could not afford to act recklessly. It was similar in some sense to LOL. When you trash talk despite losing, you are only setting yourself up for a more spectacular fall. For now, all he could do was suck it up. Laugh while you can. Han Xiao gritted his teeth. For 600,000 experience points. After the blood-boiling training session, Han Xiao was brought to dip in a special restorative bath for 2 hours. Although it healed his wounds, the pain from the cuts still lingered. There was an unused machinery tuning room in the base, and as Han Xiao had demonstrated some talent with machines, he was arranged to reside there. In the room were materials, tools, and a vehicle bench that he was given free rein to use. There were also shelves of books lined against the wall. Although there was a surveillance camera in a corner of the room, Han Xiao paid no heed to it. He had expected to be monitored 24/7. In the present year 687, Aquamarine was still a relatively new planet in the grand scheme of things. The planet was in the midst of a transition towards a new era, hence its technologies were still quite far behind for a sci-fi game similar to that of Earth. Mechanic talents were split into 3 trees. Each talent tree had over 20 talents that were divided into their 5 levels of basic, intermediate, advanced, expert, and master. Talents formed the core of a character's class. Learning a class unlocks the first talent, and subsequent talents require talent points. There are 3 ways to obtain talent points: through leveling, special quests, or mastering a skill. Han Xiao decided to hold on to his 2 talent points. Talents were not yet a major concern for him. Many new players spent them as soon as they got them, but talent points actually became harder to come by in the later stages of the game. They were to be used wisely. Outside of training, Han Xiao was basically free to do whatever he could, and he spent all his time on machinery in order to accumulate as much experience as possible to escape this prison. Time went by quickly. Han Xiao continued to assemble and enhance machines to gain experience, and as he improved, his perfection rate in assembly consistently hit over 90%. This gave him a lot of bonus experience. Although assembling the same kind of machine too many times gradually decreased the experience gained, up to a point where it would not yield any experience at all. There was an army in the base that was essentially a gold mine of machines, providing Han Xiao with all the resources he needed to gain experience through assembly. Han Xiao kept a low profile and continued to remain quiet and docile. Gradually, the organization also stopped monitoring him so closely. Although the organization had high hopes for him, he knew that standing out would only be disadvantageous, so he chose to accumulate experience instead of leveling up when he could. Very soon, the research team lost interest in him. The degree of skill that he displayed in assembly was easily attainable by trained logistics personnel, and he simply did not fulfill their expectations. They continued observing him for another month before writing him off as a failure. Instead of wasting more time on him, they chose to devote their efforts elsewhere and ceased the 24/7 surveillance. This allowed Han Xiao to relax a little. As the organization's attention gradually shifted away from him, eventually, only Lin Weixian and Baltar continued to keep tabs on him. Although Lin Weixian's continued requests to dissect Han Xiao for research were still being rejected, Han Xiao knew that it was only a matter of time before they would be approved. There was not much time left for him. As for Baltar, Han Xiao had become the sole target of his affection. As recovery pills were readily available and the researchers believed that torture could stimulate growth, Baltar was allowed to indulge in his sadistic ways. Han Xiao gradually grew numb to the pain. With nothing much to do and no one to converse to, Han Xiao channeled his focus and thoughts into studying machinery. He found solace in the sense of accomplishment that crafting brought him. One day, a number of armored guards came to the tuning room to move a large portion of Han Xiao's resources away. As Han Xiao watched them quietly, a person walked up to him. "You have let the organization down. From today onward, your resources will be cut by 80%. The person who spoke to Han Xiao was test subject number 1. "I heard that you are my predecessor. With so many resources, is all you can make garbage like this? You are a failure, and I have been chosen to replace you." For some reason, the sight of Han Xiao irked number 1. Han Xiao remained silent. The organization prioritized results. Since Han Xiao was not giving them results, he was being stripped of his privileges. privileges. They planned to devote their resources to grooming the more promising number 1. As the research lab did not have any maintenance personnel for machinery, Han Xiao still got to keep the tuning room for himself. He was now assigned to perform maintenance and repairs. TSK, sad rats. A few guards who saw the pair conversed among themselves. Brainwashed lab rats, fated to be sacrificed. I'd rather die than end up like that. Sure, they can hear us. It doesn't matter, does it? They've already been brainwashed anyway. To them, test subjects were less than animals. Han Xiao walked away silently. Half a year passed. In this period of time, Han Xiao managed to figure out the layout of the entire facility and the routines of the staff. The Valkyrie Laboratory, commanded by Hyler, was an underground facility that comprised of 3 floors. Because it was a secret base, it wasn't built to be very big and was concealed within an uninhabited forest. Its supplies were delivered by airdrop. A total of 60 armored guards patrolled the facility. Every now and then, the organization would send a batch of test subjects who had had their memories wiped here for experimentation. Although there were a dozen so other Valkyrie laboratories, this base was the main one. After Han Xiao and number 1, the Germinal organization had managed to produce another 76 successful test subjects. While most of them had already been transferred to other facilities, number 1 and 9 other exceptional test subjects were chosen to form a squad, and they were still awaiting orders here. Han Xiao had grown accustomed to his life here. Aside from training, he spent all his time working with machines in the tuning room. The room had become a haven of sorts for him. The guards gradually began to ignore his presence, and when he passed by, they would simply gloss over him as though he were invisible. This was extremely advantageous for Han Xiao, who was tirelessly gaining as much experience as he could. He also tried to memorize as many blueprints as he could. The experience that assembly and enhancement rewarded were separate. When Han Xiao could no longer gain experience from assembling a certain machine, he would proceed to work on enhancing it. He was always careful to revert the machinery back to its original state after enhancing so as to keep his abilities a secret. After many hours of training, Han Xiao also managed to master the 2 skills of basic combat and basic shooting, and unexpectedly unlocked a passive ability called Grinder, which gave him plus 100 health. He also unlocked the subclass of Agent, and was now at a character level of 4. After his continued efforts, basic assembly and basic enhancement reached LV4, while basic combat and basic shooting reached LV2. Mechanics required substantial amounts of resources and currency for growth, and while this would normally be a limitation to the class, Han Xiao had access to free materials from the organization. He had used up almost 90% of the machines in the army, accumulating a total of 600,000 experience. Without monsters or missions, only mechanics could earn so much experience in such a short amount of time. Give Lin Weixian the green light, he has asked repeatedly. He may dissect 0, ordered the boss over the line. Hyler frowned. You rejected him repeatedly. The organization has devoted so much resources to him already. We must gain something in return, said the boss plainly. The only worth that trash has is in being recycled. That is Zero's fate. Hyler bit her lip. Understood. What are the results of number 1 and his team's training? Continued the boss. Very promising. I see potential in them. Very good. Send them to the Night Owl base for training. I have already sent the Night Owl squad to receive them. They will arrive in 2 or 3 days. That's the day I visit my sister. You don't need to follow them. Alright. 5 lightweight mechanical arm. Har, cried out Hyler as her bullet-like fist connected onto Han Xiao's chest. Han Xiao endured the pain of the blow to grab Hyler by her collar. With a mighty twist, he threw Hyler over his shoulder. However, it was ineffective. Hyler effortlessly nullified the shoulder throw by performing a flip. Han Xiao paused to rub his chest. Is that all that you are capable of? Hyler was visibly upset. Han Xiao remained silent. He had expected the organization to have given up on him with what little progress he had shown, but for the past 6 months, Hyler had dutifully trained with him every single day. For some reason, though, she was going especially hard on him today. Although Hyler was the commander of this base, she did not have much work to do. Training Han Xiao was actually one of the few things that she had to look forward to. When she had learnt of the boss's intention to hand him to Lin Weixian, it had upset her. Although they had never actually conversed before, it was 6 months of accompaniment regardless. A person could even develop feelings for an object if he or she spent that much time with it. Perhaps, due to having grown used to seeing Han Xiao every day, Hyler was a bit reluctant to hand him over. How many times has it been, she wondered. All those people, all those faces. The organization's cruel methods had not only caused her to lose many of her friends, she had also lost her sister. The reason she had pushed Han Xiao harder today was to try and stimulate him. She had hoped to be able to draw out any latent talent in him. However, it had clearly been too much to ask for. The boss has approved of Lin Weixian's request to dissect you. She sighed. Strictly speaking, this was the first time she had ever spoken of anything outside of training to Han Xiao. Han Xiao's eyes flashed. Finally,